Good morning, this is Gerrit Viljoen, the 7th of December, well actually the 8th of December 2023, and it's a big welcome to all the Ultima family and friends. I think the last time I gave you an update on what's happening was the onset of the Ukrainian-Russian war, and I made some predictions that it wouldn't affect us all that much, and fortunately I was correct. I think now we're in a very different situation where we see just the conflict in the Middle East on a much broader and a larger scale. I really have no idea how this is going to play out. We see all of the things happening in other countries, and it just destabilizes basically the world economy. So what I want to do today is just run through some of the metrics that we get from portfolio metrics, just to give you a bit of a feedback and some updates about what's happening. So please bear with me as I run through this. I won't be able to address everything, but let me see if we can get started. So yes, there's a lot of things that has happened this past week. We see that the economies are slowing basically in all of the countries that we do the research on, even the first world countries, also the emerging markets. And we see that OPEC has announced a 900,000 barrels a day cut in the production, but that didn't increase the price of oil, which is good news for us as we see the price coming off petrol and diesel in December. Now, bad news is that we see the economy shrinking in Q3. That's not good news. But we also see that we're spending money. Treasury threw another 47 billion lifeline to Transnet. We know we've got basically no money. So things are really happening quick and fast in our country. We know the government will do a lot of window dressing before the 2024 elections, trying to muster some support from their base. But yeah, we're really, in a sense, deeply in trouble. Right, so we've seen that the money markets are pricing in, and this is in the USA, money markets are pricing in 150 basis points of a drop in 2024, which could be good news for bonds. And some of you know that we've spoken about the bonds. This is quite good news because then the yields will increase. We're also waiting for South African rate cuts. So this is good news as the bond market declines. Now, yeah, the Bank of Japan had a rate hike. There's also some troubles around Japan. We've seen in 89 was basically the last time the stock exchange was at an all-time high. So there's some US job openings dropped in October. But despite that, the US economy is surging forward. There's mixed feelings about what's going to happen in the coming year regarding the US economy. Some claim that the US economy will just continue rising. We know that it's basically the Magnificent Seven stocks that's driving the market at this stage, and we understand that that cannot continue, but we've been proved wrong in the past, so we'll watch out for that happening. Yeah, China's exports are a little bit up, but here's something that's quite worrying, that our GDP is in decline, and we know that it's not really a surprise for us because we've seen all of the trouble with the parastatals and the lack of interest of turning that really around. So yeah, our GDP decline was expected. Quite a joke that there's a little bit of progress, and our government will use that to prop up possibly the election campaign for next year. All right, if we look, this is quite a busy slide. I just want to look at where the money had been made, and we see that this is UK asset classes. Basically, the global high yields have performed quite well, where we see a mixed bag of government bonds of other jurisdictions. Also, the performance index in South Africa, again, we see that it's the developed equities that basically have done best, and also global equities. That's why we are still overweight global equities at this point in time, and we see it's quite a different mixed bag if we look at all the other asset classes. I want to run through to some more graphs that they've given us, and this is our currencies. We see our currency, the South African rand, declined against the US dollar. The Turkish lira did worse than us, also the Russian ruble, and it is basically the Colombian peso, I don't know much about that currency, that did the best against the US dollar, or strengthened, if we can call it the best. We also see then commodities, which was quite out of favor, but we'll see a graph later on where commodities performed quite nicely. Even though they are down, we believe that commodities, which is out of favor, can really pick up again in the near future. Here again, we've seen a nice, or the Baltic Dry Index is one of the best indexes explaining commodities, that it's ticked up nicely. So we can expect that the commodities will again return to some of the favorite asset classes that we have. And this is just very interesting for us to note this, that portfolio metrics, which we trust to do the underlying asset allocation of your portfolios, they do this research on a constant basis, and they will tweak the portfolios as a result of their research that they do. So it's no use to try yourself to now jump into commodities. You wouldn't know what to buy, and then out again into other asset classes, because the minute you do that, you will incur a lot of capital gains tax if you've made some gains, which is not necessarily true if the underlying fund manager, or as we use portfolio metrics as a discretionary fund manager, when they do these changes. There you can again see copper in US dollar. Iron ore, we don't use that. Here we can see gold, which has performed very well. This is in US dollar, and we see that it's basically testing an all-time high that gold has ever been. We saw that in 2020 it hit an all-time high, and is basically at that point again, which only tells us that people are flocking to gold as an alternative in times when they perceive that there's trouble. We also see that Russia and China are the biggest gold buyers at this point in time, so it's something to watch. The gold in South African rand, we see there's the three tops, but it's only because of the rand's decline that we have basically outperformed in South African rand against the dollar. So yes, if we look at the platinum, we see it's on a long-term rise, even though it came down from its highest point. So yeah, if we look at oil as well, which affects us directly, I know that some people in the ANC wants to blame everyone else, but it's basically what happens to the oil price in US dollars. And many of you will know that there's talk that the BRICS countries, they don't want to pay for Brent crude in dollars, which is a fiat currency, a paper currency. They want their own currency, which would be tied towards a basket of commodities. Now, nothing of that is played out yet. So if we look at what's happening, Russia and China has already started paying for oil, crude oil in renminbi, which is the Chinese currency. So at this point in time, it hasn't had a big effect, but we monitor that closely. So yes, I think I just want to stop here and just sum up that I think there's there could be a lot of problems coming in 2024, but if we see the strong economy in America, we see that there's a debate about whether they're going to have a soft landing or whether it's going to come down like a crash. Portfolio Metrics is keeping their eye on this all the time. So yeah, just thank you for watching, and I hope this helped you a little bit. Just understand that we are not in such a bad position, and again, all will play out in the Middle East. We hope there's a peaceful settlement soon. Doesn't really look like it, but I'm hopeful that we will see that pretty soon.